Ever feel like your apartment isn't just yours? This is the story of Alex, a guy living in a sleek New York apartment, who learned that some leases come with unlisted occupants. It all started one night, a little after 3 a.m. Alex was just standing in his living room, unable to shake this weird feeling of being watched. The city lights outside cast long, strange shadows that seemed to twist and crawl along the walls. He couldn't put his finger on it, but the air felt heavy, charged with something wrong. He tried to brush it off as late-night paranoia. Maybe he'd had too much coffee, but then he heard it, a soft, scraping sound from the apartment directly above his scraped rag. It was slow, deliberate. Alex looked up, his eyes tracing the faint cracks in his ceiling. As he stared, dust motes drifted down, catching the dim light. The scraping stopped, replaced by a tense silence that was somehow even worse. He held his breath, straining to hear anything, but there was nothing, just the low hum of the city and the frantic thumping of his own heart. He told himself it was just the building settling, or maybe his upstairs neighbor rearranging furniture at an ungodly hour. He really tried to believe it, but a moment later, a whisper slithered down from the ceiling. It wasn't a real voice, not something you could hear with your ears, but more like a thought planted directly in his mind. It was cold and raspy, and it formed two distinct words: "You're next." Terror shot through Alex like a jolt of electricity. He stumbled back, eyes wide, locked on the ceiling. The shadows up there seemed to darken, to coalesce. For a split second, he thought he saw a shape, a hint of a face peeking through a crack, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. His apartment, his safe space, suddenly felt like a cage. The silence returned, but now it was filled with the echo of that impossible whisper. His mind was racing, trying to rationalize what just happened. Was he hallucinating? Sleep deprived? He needed to get out, to get some fresh air and clear his head. As he took a step towards the door, a new sound stopped him dead. Scratching, but this time, it wasn't coming from above. It was on the floor, right in front of him. He looked down, and watched in horror as thin, deep scratches began to appear in the polished wood, etching their way across the floorboards as if an invisible claw was dragging itself towards him. He could see the dust and tiny splinters of wood being pushed aside. In the faint reflection on the floor, he saw his own face, pale and contorted in pure terror. The scratching was getting closer. Panicked, Alex scrambled backward, his back hitting the wall. He stared at the spot where the scratching had stopped, his chest heaving. That's when the ceiling began to crack. Not just faint lines, but deep splintering fissures, spreading like a spiderweb. A dark, thick sludge started to drip down, pooling on the floor. Then, from the largest crack, a figure began to emerge. It didn't climb down. It flowed, pouring itself into his apartment like smoke. It was a tall, skeletal shadow, with hollow voids for eyes and a grin that was too wide, stretched into a permanent, silent scream. It floated down, its form wavering slightly, its feet never touching the ground. It was here. The thing from the ceiling was in his apartment. Alex didn't scream. The sound was trapped in his throat. He just bolted, fumbling for the doorknob and yanking it open. He burst into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind him, and ran. He didn't look back. He just needed to get to the elevator, to the stairs, to get out of the building. But as he sprinted down the hall, something felt wrong. The hallway seemed longer. The door to his neighbor's apartment, which should have been just a few feet away, was now distant. He kept running, his lungs burning, but the doors just kept repeating. 1 to A, 1 to B, 1 to C, then 1 to A again. The perspective was warped, twisted. The walls seemed to bend and stretch. A cold, thick fog started to creep along the floor, swirling around his ankles. He was trapped in an impossible, repeating nightmare of his own hallway. He finally skidded to a halt, panting, realizing the futility of it. The elevator button at the end of the hall seemed to get further away the more he ran towards it. Defeated, he slowly turned around, and there it was. The shadow figure was right behind him, looming over him. Its featureless face, inches from his cold it radiated, was soul-deep. Another whisper echoed in his mind, not from the ceiling this time, but from right behind his ear, a final, chilling declaration of ownership. "You can't leave," it hissed. "This is my floor now." And in that endless hallway, Alex understood he wasn't just a tenant anymore. He was a permanent resident. Thank you so much for watching this short horror story. If you enjoyed this dive into the uncanny, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to Alex. Stay safe, and always check your lease. See you next time.